You're single, Natalie. My kids need this apartment more than you do.
For once, just let your brother have something. Okay, enjoy it for the next hour. The people who are about to explain whose apartment this really is.
My brother looked me straight in the eye, standing inside my own apartment, and said, "This place fits me and my kids better than it ever fit you." My mother was behind him, holding a coffee mug like she lived there too. Then she smiled and said, "Natalie, you're single. You don't need all this space." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I picked up the small box they had packed for me, walked back to the elevator, and left. 1 hour later, the doorbell rang. My mother opened the door, and the second she saw who was standing outside, both of her hands flew to her mouth. "Hello, my name is Natalie Brooks. I'm 35 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I understood exactly how selfish my family could be. I was wrong. There is a level of entitlement so extreme that you don't recognize it at first. Your brain keeps trying to turn it into a misunderstanding because the truth sounds too ridiculous. That was what happened to me. I came home from a business trip and found my older brother, Derek, living in my apartment with his 3 children. He had changed the locks. He had moved my furniture. He had turned my bedroom into a video studio, and somehow, my mother had convinced herself that I was the unreasonable one for wanting my home back. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that they hadn't done it impulsively. They had planned it. To understand why they thought they could get away with it, you need to understand my family. Derek is 4 years older than me. Growing up, he was the child who always had a reason why the rules shouldn't apply to him. If he forgot homework, the teacher was unfair. If he lost a job, his manager was jealous. If he ran out of money, the economy was terrible. If his relationship ended, the woman was impossible. And my mother, Elaine, always had the same response. "Derek is going through a lot." That sentence could explain anything in our house. Derek wrecked Dad's old truck when he was 19. He was going through a lot. Derek borrowed $12,000 from our parents for a landscaping business that lasted 6 months. He was going through a lot. Derek moved back into Mom's house after his marriage fell apart and turned her garage into what he called a media headquarters. He was going through a lot. But if I needed something, the answer was different. "You're responsible. You'll figure it out. You've always been independent." It took me years to understand that in my family, being responsible wasn't a compliment. It was a punishment for not creating enough emergencies. So I stopped expecting help. I paid my own way through college. I built a career in cybersecurity. I specialized in incident response, which basically means companies call me after something has gone very wrong and everyone is panicking. My job is to walk into the chaos, preserve evidence, figure out what happened, and stop people from making the situation worse. I never expected that training to become useful against my own family. By the time I was 33, I had saved enough money to buy a 2-bedroom apartment in a newer building just outside downtown Austin. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't some celebrity penthouse. But it was beautiful to me. Big windows, a small balcony, a kitchen with more counter space than I needed, a second bedroom that I used as an office, and most importantly, every square foot of it was mine. I never told my family how I bought it. They assumed I was renting. I let them assume it. Money conversations with my mother had always turned into family budgeting sessions where my bank account somehow became a public resource. If she knew I had savings, if Derek suddenly had a crisis, if she knew I received a bonus, someone needed help. So I learned to keep my finances private. Derek visited my apartment twice before all of this happened. Both times, he made the same kind of comments. "Must be nice. You really need 2 bedrooms just for yourself. I could actually use this place." I thought he was being annoying. I didn't realize he was taking inventory. 3 months before my business trip, Derek moved out of Mom's house after they had some kind of argument about the garage. He claimed he was renting a townhouse. I never saw it. Whenever I asked, he changed the subject. Then one Sunday, Mom called me. She started casually. "How is work?" "Busy. Travel coming up." That question should have bothered me. Instead, I answered honestly. I told her my company might send me to San Francisco for about 2 weeks to help a client after a major security breach. She became unusually interested. What dates? I don't know yet. Will you be gone the whole time? Probably. Then she said something that seemed harmless. If you want, I can check on your place while you're gone. I said the building had staff, and I didn't need anyone to check on it. She laughed. I'm your mother. I'm allowed to worry. I forgot about the conversation. 2 weeks later, the trip became official. I would be gone for 12 days. I mentioned it in the family group chat because Mom had asked if I could come to dinner that weekend. Derek replied almost immediately. Have fun in California. Don't work too hard. That was strange because Derek usually ignored my work messages. Then he added, if you need someone to water the plants, I can do it. I told him no thanks. What I didn't know was that the answer didn't matter anymore. They already had a plan. I flew out on a Monday morning. The first 5 days were exhausting. The client had been hit by a sophisticated intrusion, and my team was working almost nonstop. On Saturday, we discovered the main problem faster than expected. By Sunday afternoon, the client no longer needed me on site. My manager told me I could fly home early. I changed my ticket. I didn't tell my family. That decision changed everything. I landed in Austin a little after 4 in the afternoon, took a rideshare home, dragged my suitcase through the lobby, and rode the elevator to my floor. I remember feeling relieved. I was thinking about taking a shower, ordering Thai food, and sleeping for 12 hours. Then my key didn't work. I tried it once. Then again. I checked the number on the door like I might have somehow gotten off on the wrong floor. Same apartment. Same welcome mat. Different lock. Before I could knock, the door opened. My 9-year-old niece, Lily, stood there wearing socks and holding a bowl of cereal. She stared at me. Aunt Natalie? I stared back. Hi, Lily. She looked over her shoulder and shouted, Dad! Aunt Natalie is here! Not visiting. Not dropping by. Here. I stepped inside before anyone invited me. For the first few seconds, I couldn't process what I was seeing. There were children's backpacks against the wall, shoes under my entry table, plastic cups in my kitchen, a pile of laundry on my sofa. My framed photographs had been removed from the shelves and stacked on the floor beside the television. Then Derek came out of the hallway. He wasn't surprised enough. That was the first thing I noticed. He looked irritated, not shocked. You're back early, I said. Why are you in my apartment? He rubbed his face like I was asking an exhausting question. Can we not do this in front of the kids? I looked toward the hallway. My office door was open. There were sleeping bags on the floor. My youngest nephew had toys spread across my desk. Then I looked at my bedroom. The door was open too. My bed was gone. In its place was a black desk, 2 monitors, a microphone arm, a ring light, 2 soft box lights, and a gray backdrop hanging from a metal frame. Derek had turned my bedroom into a content studio. For several seconds, I just stood there. Then he walked past me and said, almost proudly, pretty good setup, right? I looked at him. Where is my bed? Storage. Where are my clothes? Mostly storage? Whose storage? He pointed toward the balcony. There was 1 plastic bin outside. 1. My stomach went cold. Then my mother walked out of the kitchen. She was wearing one of my aprons. That image bothered me more than it should have. She said, Natalie, before you get upset, listen. I almost laughed. Before I get upset. As she lowered her voice. Derek needed somewhere stable for the children. So you moved him into my home. It was sitting empty. I was on a work trip. You're always traveling. Derek crossed his arms. This place suits me and my kids better than you. There it was. Not an apology, not a request. A declaration. He continued. You have 2 bedrooms and you're 1 person. I have 3 kids. Do the math, I said. The math is that this is my apartment. A mom sighed. You're single. You don't need something this big. I looked at her. Did you help him change my lock? She didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. Then Derek did something I still think about. He reached into a drawer near the kitchen and pulled out a folder. He handed me a piece of paper. At the top, in large letters, it said Tempo War Famile OCCUANCY Agigament. My name was printed underneath, and at the bottom was a signature that was supposed to be mine. I looked at it for maybe 3 seconds. I knew instantly that I had never signed it. But I also knew something else. The signature wasn't random. Someone had copied it from a real document. Derek tapped the paper. You gave permission. I looked at him. No, I didn't. A mom stepped forward. Natalie, don't turn this into something ugly. I took out my phone. Derek immediately said, What are you doing? I took a photograph of the paper, saving myself a copy. His expression changed. Just slightly, but I saw it. That was the moment my cybersecurity brain took over. Something had gone wrong. Preserve evidence. Don't contaminate the scene. Don't show the other side what you know. So I stopped arguing. I walked to the balcony, picked up the plastic bin they had packed for me, and checked what was inside. A few sweaters. 2 pairs of shoes. Some books. My grandmother's jewelry box. At least they hadn't thrown that away. I carried the bin toward the door. Mom looked relieved. She actually thought I was surrendering. I knew you'd understand, she said. I paused. Then I looked at Derek. How long were you planning to stay? He shrugged. Until I get back on my feet. That phrase had no ending date. I nodded. Okay. A mom smiled. Derek smiled too. I walked out. The elevator doors closed. And the second I was alone, I put the plastic bin on the floor and started recording a voice memo while everything was fresh in my memory. Exact words. Exact time. What I saw. Who was present. Then I went downstairs to the lobby. The building manager, Marcus, was in his office. When he saw me, his face changed. Natalie. I was going to call you. I shut the door behind me. What happened to my lock? He looked uncomfortable. Your mother came in last week with your brother and a locksmith. She said you had authorized a replacement because children were staying in the unit. Did you see Edme in writing? She showed me a letter. Did it have my signature? Yes. I showed him the photograph Derek had just handed me. Marcus went pale. That looks like it. Do you still have the security footage? Yes. Please save it. He nodded immediately. Then he said, There's more. I waited. Your brother tried to get 2 additional building access fobs. I refused because his name isn't on the owner record. He got angry. Your mother told me you were adding him later. Owner record. That word mattered. My family had assumed I rented the apartment. Marcus knew I owned it. I asked, Did you tell them I'm the owner? He shook his head. No, I didn't think it was my business. For the first time that day, I almost smiled. Good. Their biggest mistake was still intact. They had no idea what I actually owned. I called my attorney, Maya Chen. Maya had handled the purchase when I bought the apartment. She knew the deed, the building documents, everything. I explained what happened. She interrupted only once. They forged your signature. Wes? Do you have the document? A photo. Good. Do not take anything else from them. Do not threaten them. Do not agree to anything. Send me the photo. I did. Then I asked the question that had been forming in my head. What can I do right now? Amaya was quiet for a moment. Right now, we document. We establish ownership. We establish how they entered. We establish that you didn't consent. Then we decide the cleanest way to get them out without creating a bigger problem. I looked through the glass wall of Marcus's office toward the elevators. I could almost picture Derek upstairs adjusting his ring light inside my bedroom. Then my phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. Natalie, this is Rachel. Is Derek with you? Rachel was Derek's ex-wife. We had barely spoken since their separation. I typed back. He's at my apartment with the kids. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, she wrote, What do you mean? At your apartment. I called her. The moment she answered, I knew something was wrong. She sounded furious and scared. Derek had the children for the weekend. He was supposed to return them Sunday evening. Instead, he texted Rachel saying he had taken them to stay with family for a few extra days while he worked out a housing issue. He never said he had moved them into my apartment. He never said he had changed my locks. And he definitely never said that I had not agreed to any of it. Rachel had been trying to reach him for hours. I said, "Come here." She said, "I'm already in the car." That was surprise number one. Then Marcus pulled up the lobby camera footage. There was my mother, 6 days earlier, walking through the lobby beside Derek and a locksmith. She was carrying a blue folder. The same blue folder Derek had pulled the fake agreement from. Marcus fast-forwarded. 10 minutes later, Derek came back downstairs alone. He looked around the lobby, stepped outside, and made a phone call. The camera didn't record sound. But it didn't need to. He was smiling. He looked like a man who believed he had just won something. Then Marcus showed me another clip from later that night. Derek came down carrying 2 boxes from my apartment. My boxes? He loaded them into the back of an SUV. Do you know where he took those? I asked. Marcus shook his head. My calm disappeared for about 5 seconds. I had family photographs in those boxes. Documents, things from my late father. I wanted to run upstairs and demand every item back. Maya stopped me. "Don't give them a chance to move or destroy anything else," she said. "We're going up together." Then I remembered something. My apartment had a small entry camera inside the living room. It wasn't a security system exactly. I used it to check on deliveries when I traveled. I opened the app. The camera showed as offline. Of course it did. But the cloud history was still there. I opened the recordings from the day they moved in. The first clip showed Derek entering with boxes. The second showed Mom carrying bags. The third changed everything. The camera had recorded for less than a minute before Derek unplugged it. In that minute, he and Mom were standing in my living room. Derek said, "Once we're in, she'll complain, but she won't actually kick us out with the kids here." Mom answered, "Exactly. She hates confrontation. Give it a few weeks and she'll accept it." Derek laughed. Then he noticed the camera. "What's that?" The recording ended. I stared at my phone. Maya stared too. Marcus whispered, "Whoa." There are moments when anger becomes something cleaner. That was one of them. For years, I had wondered if my family truly understood how much they used my silence against me. Now I had the answer. They understood perfectly. They had built their entire plan around it. I sent the clip to Maya. Then Rachel called again. "I'm 5 minutes away." I looked at the time. I had been downstairs less than 40 minutes. Upstairs, Derek and Mom probably thought I was driving to a hotel. They probably thought the problem was over. Maya arrived 12 minutes later with a legal assistant and a folder containing my ownership documents. She had moved fast. Marcus printed the access logs and saved the camera footage. Rachel walked into the lobby 2 minutes after that. Her face was white with anger. She didn't hug me. We were not close enough for that. She just said, "Tell me he didn't know you were coming home." "He didn't." She nodded slowly. "Good." Then, she told us something I didn't know. Derek had recently been trying to build an online business around parenting and entrepreneurship. He had been telling people he had secured a new family home with space for a professional studio. He had even posted a teaser video that morning. Rachel pulled it up. There was my bedroom. Derek stood in front of the gray backdrop, smiling into the camera. Big moves happening. New space. New chapter. Sometimes you have to stop asking permission to build the life your kids deserve. I watched the clip twice. Maya said, "Save that." I did. At that point, the whole situation felt unreal. He wasn't hiding what he did. He was marketing it. I asked Rachel what she wanted to do about the children. She said, "I'm taking them home tonight. Whatever happens between you and Derek, they are not staying in the middle of it." I agreed immediately. That mattered to me. The children had done nothing wrong. I didn't want revenge against them. I wanted the adults who used them as protection to lose that protection. So we made a simple plan. Rachel would knock first. I would stand a few steps behind her with Maya and Marcus. We wouldn't yell. We wouldn't argue in front of the children. We would let Derek talk. People like Derek usually tell you everything when they think they're the smartest person in the room. Exactly 1 hour after I walked out of my apartment, we rode the elevator back upstairs. I could hear my heartbeat in the silence. Rachel stood at the front. Maya carried the folder. Marcus had a copy of the building access report. I stood behind them. Rachel pressed the doorbell. Footsteps approached. The door opened. My mother was smiling. She expected me. Then she saw Rachel. Her hands flew to her mouth. Rachel. Rachel didn't smile. Where are my children? Mom's face lost all color. Then her eyes moved past Rachel and landed on me. Then Maya. Then Marcus. The smile was gone. Derek appeared behind her. The second he saw Rachel, he said, "Why are you here?" Rachel replied, "Because you stopped answering me and moved our kids into a home that isn't yours." Derek looked at me. "You called her less." His voice rose. "You had no right." I almost laughed. No right. He had changed the locks on my home, forged my signature, moved my belongings, turned my bedroom into a studio, and now he was explaining rights to me. But I stayed calm. Rachel asked the children to pack their overnight things. Derek tried to stop her, not physically, he just started talking fast. "They're settled here. This is stable. This is better for them." Rachel pointed around the apartment. "You told me this was a temporary place you had permission to use." Derek looked at Mom. Mom looked at me. Then she said the sentence she always used when reality became inconvenient. "This is a family misunderstanding." Maya finally stepped forward. "No, it isn't." Mom blinked. "And you are Natalie's attorney." Silence. Derek actually laughed once. A short nervous sound. "Attorney. For what?" Amaya opened the folder. "For the apartment she owns." Derek stopped moving. Mom stared at her. "What do you mean owns?" I answered. "I bought this apartment 2 years ago." Mom looked at me as if I had betrayed her. "You told us you were renting." "No. You assumed I was renting." "That's the same thing." "No, Mom. It isn't." Maya held up a copy of the ownership record. Derek stepped closer. I could see him reading my name. Then he looked at me. "Why didn't you tell us?" That question almost broke my calm. Why didn't I tell them? Because this was what happened when they knew I had something. They measured whether I deserved it. Then they redistributed it. I said, "Because my finances are not family property." Your mom crossed her arms. "You're making this much bigger than it needs to be." Amaya took out another page. "This is the document you used to represent that Natalie gave Derek permission to occupy the unit." Mom said nothing. Maya continued. "Natalie says she did not sign it." Derek's face tightened. He said, "She's confused." I took out my phone and played the cloud recording. His own voice filled the living room. "Once we're in, she'll complain, but she won't actually kick us out with the kids here." Then Mom's voice. "She hates confrontation. Give it a few weeks and she'll accept it." Nobody spoke. Even the children had gone quiet in the hallway. I stopped the recording. Mom whispered, "You recorded us." It was my camera. "In my apartment." Derek said, "That doesn't prove anything." Then Marcus spoke for the first time. "I also have the security footage of you arriving with the locksmith." Derek turned toward him. Marcus continued. "And the access logs. And the request for extra fobs. And the record showing no owner. Authorized lock change." Derek's confidence finally cracked. He looked around like the room might provide an escape route. That was when his phone started ringing. He ignored it. It rang again. Then again. Rachel looked at the screen on the counter. "Why is your business partner calling you?" Derek grabbed the phone. But it was too late. A notification had appeared under the incoming call. His teaser video was getting attention. Not the kind he wanted. Someone in his audience had recognized my apartment building from the windows and had asked in the comments when he bought a place downtown. Derek had replied, publicly, less than an hour earlier. "Family property. Long story. It's basically mine now." Maya smiled for the first time. "Please save that too, Natalie." I did. Derek snapped, "Stop collecting everything." I looked at him. That's literally my job. For the first time all day, Rachel laughed. Not loudly, just once. Derek hated that more than anything. He turned to Mom. Say something. And I watched my mother realize that there was nothing left for her to say. No story could fix it. No guilt could erase the document. No accusation could delete the video. No family speech could change whose name was on the apartment. Maya explained that everything from that point forward would be handled formally. There would be no private deal made in the kitchen. No promise that disappeared later. No family agreement. Every communication would go through her office. Derek would have to remove himself and his property through the proper process. Any of my property that had been removed had to be identified and returned. Any damage would be documented, and the forged document would not be ignored. Derek stared at me. You would really do this to your own brother? There it was. The final weapon. Family. I said. You did this to your sister. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Rachel took the children home that evening. I helped Lily find her shoes. My youngest nephew looked confused and asked if they were coming back. I told him, You're going home with your mom. The adults are fixing something. That was all he needed to know. I refused to make children carry an adult war. After they left, Derek's tone changed completely. He started negotiating. First he asked for 90 days, then 60, then 30. Then he asked if he could at least keep using the bedroom studio during the day. I said no to all of it. Mom started crying. She told me I was destroying the family. I reminded her that 1 hour earlier, she had been wearing my apron while telling me I didn't deserve my own home. She said she was only trying to help her son. I said, You could have helped him with your home. She had no answer. That night, I stayed in a hotel because I didn't want to sleep there until their belongings were out and the locks were properly restored. The next morning, Maya called me. She had reviewed everything. The forged signature was the most serious issue. The removal of my belongings mattered too. So did the false representation to building management. I told her I didn't want a dramatic war. I wanted 3 things. My apartment back, my belongings returned, and a permanent end to the belief that my family could take from me because I was less likely to scream. Maya said, That's clear enough. Over the next several days, Derek discovered something he had apparently never learned as a child. Actions continue after the argument ends. There are emails, documents, deadlines, invoices, consequences. He moved out. Not because he suddenly respected me. Because he finally understood that I had stopped making respect optional. Most of my belongings came back from a storage unit across town. 2 pieces of furniture were scratched. 1 lamp was broken. Several kitchen items were missing. My bedroom wall had holes from the backdrop system. The carpet had adhesive marks where he taped cables down. I photographed everything. Of course I did. Derek later agreed to pay for the damage rather than keep fighting through attorneys. He also deleted his new home videos. Unfortunately for him, screenshots had already been saved. His online business didn't collapse because I attacked it. It collapsed because he couldn't stop talking. After people questioned him about the apartment, he posted an angry Lev video calling me selfish and saying the place should have gone to the family member who actually needed it. During that same live video, he admitted he knew I had never invited him to move in. He deleted the video 20 minutes later. 20 minutes was enough. Maya had a copy. So did Rachel. So did half his audience. For the first time in his life, Derek couldn't rewrite the story fast enough. Mom tried a different approach. She sent me a long message saying she was sorry for how things happened, not for helping him enter my home, not for using a false document, not for packing my belongings, for how things happened. Then came the explanation. Derek was under pressure. The kids needed stability. She was scared for him. She thought I would understand. And finally, at the end, she wrote, I hope someday you can choose family over property. I read that line 3 times. Then I understood something. This had never been about property. It was about permission. My family believed that being related to me gave them permission to decide what I needed. what I deserved, what I should give up, how much space I was allowed to occupy in my own life. The apartment was just the first time their belief became physical enough for me to see it clearly. So I replied with one sentence. Family does not require surrender. Then I stopped responding. A month later, I changed more than the locks. I removed my mother as my emergency contact. I changed every family password I had ever shared. I closed the old joint cloud folder where Mom kept copies of tax documents and identification records from years ago. That was where we eventually realized she had probably found the signature they copied. I moved important documents into secure storage. And for the first time in my life, I stopped explaining my boundaries after I set them. That was harder than evicting Derek. I had spent decades believing that saying no required a closing argument. It doesn't. Sometimes, no is a complete structural support. It holds by itself. 2 months later, Rachel called me. She said the kids were doing fine. Lily had asked why I was mad at her dad. Rachel told her only that adults had disagreed about something important and that none of it was the children's fault. I thanked her. Then Lily came on the phone. She said, "Aunt Natalie, did Dad really put his lights in your bedroom?" I laughed. "Yes," she said. "That was weird." Out of everyone involved, the 9-year-old had the clearest summary. "Yes," I said. "It was very weird." Then she asked if she could still visit me someday. That question hit me harder than anything Derek or Mom had said. I told her yes. The children were never banned from my life. They were not responsible for the adults who moved them around like emotional shields. A few weeks later, they came over for pizza. No studio, no sleeping bags, no argument. Just pizza, a movie, and Lily standing in my bedroom doorway saying, "It looks way better like this." I agreed. My bed was back. My photographs were back on the shelf. My grandmother's jewelry box was on the dresser. The wall had been repaired, and the apartment finally smelled like my home again. Derek and I still don't speak. My mother and I barely do. People sometimes ask whether that feels like revenge. Not exactly. Revenge would have been trying to hurt them the way they hurt me. What happened was more satisfying than that. They had to live in a world where I no longer absorbed the consequences of their choices. Derek had to find housing he could actually afford and permission he could actually get. Mom had to sit with the fact that helping him no longer meant volunteering my life. And I got something I should have had from the beginning. The right to stand inside my own home, without defending why I deserve to be there. I still think about that first moment sometimes. Derek in my hallway. My bedroom turned into his studio. Mom wearing my apron. That fake document on the counter. This place suits me and my kids better than you. You're single. You don't need something this big. They thought those words ended the argument. They thought I walked away because I was weak. They thought silence meant surrender. But silence is not surrender when you're using it to listen, think, and decide what comes next. That day, I didn't scream. I didn't throw anyone's belongings into the hallway. I didn't make a scene. I simply stopped protecting people from the consequences of disrespecting me. And that changed everything. Because 1 hour after my family decided my home belonged to them, the doorbell rang. My mother opened it expecting the daughter she had trained to give in. Instead, she found the children's mother, my attorney, the building manager, the evidence, and me standing behind all of it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking my family to understand me. I was informing them that the decision had already been made. They wanted my home because they thought I would always make myself smaller for them. In the end, I kept every room. But the most important space I took back wasn't the apartment. It was the space inside my own life where their permission used to be. And once I took that back, I never gave them the key again.